KISS, the band that redefined rock and roll. Explosive performances, fire-breathing theatrics, and a sound that shook the world. But behind the makeup, behind the anthems, there was a war brewing. For decades, Paul Stanley and Ace Frehley were at odds. One was determined to make KISS the biggest band in history. The other, losing himself to addiction, recklessness, and self-destruction. Now, after years of silence, Paul Stanley is finally revealing the truth. What really happened between him and Ace? Was Ace the brilliant guitarist who got unfairly pushed out? Or was he the reason KISS nearly collapsed? This is the story you were never supposed to hear. When Ace Frehley walked into KISS's audition room in 1973, no one could have predicted what was about to happen. He strolled in wearing 2 mismatched sneakers, plugged in his guitar, and blew everyone away. The raw energy, the lightning-fast solos, Ace was a natural. Paul Stanley remembers that moment well. We knew instantly. There was something different about him. He had the talent, he had the edge, but he also had that wild streak, and that would become a problem. With Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Peter Criss, and Ace Frehley, KISS exploded onto the scene. They weren't just a band, they were a movement. Sold-out arenas, platinum albums, millions of screaming fans. And Ace Frehley? He was a rock star in every sense of the word. His electrifying solos on tracks like Shock Me, Cold Gin, and Rocket Ride gave KISS a signature sound. He was a fan favorite, a guitar god in platform boots. But what fans didn't see, the cracks were already forming. For all his talent, Ace was unpredictable. At first, it was harmless fun, drinking before shows, partying a little too hard. But then it became something else. Missed rehearsals, showing up drunk to recording sessions, slurred performances. Paul Stanley was getting frustrated. This wasn't just a band anymore. This was an empire, and Ace didn't get it. We had a responsibility to ourselves, to our fans, but he wasn't showing up. By 1979, things had reached a breaking point. One of the biggest battles between Paul Stanley and Ace Frehley was over the direction of KISS. Paul saw KISS as a brand that needed to evolve. Ace? He wanted to stick to pure rock and roll. Paul explains, Ace hated when we experimented. He didn't want to change. But the industry was changing. If we didn't evolve, we'd get left behind. The final straw came when Ace started pushing back harder. During the recording of Dynasty, Ace was at his worst. Paul recalls, we'd be in the studio and he just wouldn't show up. We'd call him, nothing. Then he'd roll in hours later, completely wasted. It was disrespectful. At one point, Ace demanded more creative control. Paul and Gene laughed him out of the room. Ace wanted to be in charge, but he wasn't even responsible enough to show up on time. And that's when Gene Simmons had enough. Gene Simmons drops the hammer. Gene Simmons, the business mastermind behind KISS, was watching everything. And to Gene, Ace wasn't just unreliable, he was a liability. Gene was ruthless when it came to business. KISS wasn't just 4 guys in makeup, it was a brand. And if you didn't take it seriously, you were out. To Gene, Ace was damaging the brand. Sloppy performances, bad press, tension in the band. Something had to give. And eventually, it did. By 1982, Ace had finally pushed things too far. He was barely speaking to Paul or Gene. The band had started recording without him. And then, he was gone. Paul Stanley remembers that moment clearly. We knew it was coming. He was unhappy. We were unhappy. But watching him leave, that was tough. But Ace leaving didn't fix everything. The fall of Ace Frehley. After leaving KISS, Ace's downward spiral continued. His drinking got worse. His marriage collapsed. His solo career struggled. Years of addiction took everything from him. Paul watched from a distance, heartbroken. Watching someone you care about destroy themselves, it's not just frustrating, it's tragic. And just when it seemed like Ace had hit rock bottom, in 1996, KISS reunited. Ace was back, but it wasn't the same. Paul recalls, we gave him another shot, but deep down, we knew it wouldn't last. Sure enough, by 2002, Ace was out again. And this time, Paul was done. Despite everything, one fact remains. Ace Frehley was a legend. His guitar playing helped shape one of the greatest rock bands of all time. Paul Stanley may never forgive him, but even he admits, "I'll always respect Ace for what he brought to Kiss, but some things just weren't meant to last." Now the debate continues. Was Paul Stanley too hard on Ace? Or was Ace the real reason Kiss had so many problems? One thing is certain, the story of Kiss will always include Ace Frehley, for better or worse.